Hello and welcome everyone. This is Mark Sajan, and uh, take a look at the ZBrush. To start with ZBrush, you have to understand that it requires some practice, and you have to understand how ZBrush is working before you actually jumping in and create something crazy. You have to go through the basics. It's not complicated, but it requires some time. Now, by default, if you open up the software, you will see Lightbox opening up. Lightbox has multiple models, great little headquarter, so you can save your files, load them up here. It's quite a fun thing to use, but right now we are not interested because we're just walking through the basics. So let me close it up. If you hit on Lightbox, it will close it and coming back, or you can press the comma and comma will also hide and show these models. Now this is our canvas, and ZBrush, if you just start in jumping in and start creating a stroke, it will use a simple brush that's indicated here. So it's not really a 3D model yet, it is actually a set of 2.5D models. What does that mean? A set, because we have a stroke, and the stroke will create these separated patterns. So as I lay down my brush and start dragging, it will create a kind of a machine gun type of pattern. So every stroke will count one hit, and there will be a model presented. Now the shape of my stroke is defined by the alpha. Now because alpha is not loaded yet, this is why it looks like a square, because it's kind of an empty selector and an empty preview. Now this empty preview is a square shape. This is why I have the square shape here. So if I switch the alpha to alpha 01, now my new shape will look like this. Okay, so it's much more blended, smooth, because this is a round shape. So as I drag it out, it can collapse and melt into one single stroke. Now what happens if on top of it, I change my texture? There's no texture here, so I can just hit on and select something nice. Okay, here's the star. So I can drag this out, and now I'm actually painting with the star, and I have a shape of an alpha here, and I'm also using a material. Now, can I switch a material? Yes, I can do that as well. So if I'm not liking this material, capture red wax, I can switch to something else, something like a droplet. Now droplet is a little bit different. Probably if I turn off the texture, it will be much more visible. Okay, now as you see, it looks like liquid metal, because the different material properties. So as you see, the simple brush is capable to use various properties and mix them into one stroke. So you can mix the type of your stroke, you can mix the shape of your stroke, the coloration of the stroke, and material. And if you don't use texture, you can adjust the color here. So right now I'm picking a highly strong green one, and I can drag it out, and now I have this kind of a green melted metal look. No, okay. Um, so what happens if you want to try to create something that's not a stroke, if you're interested in creating a 3D model? How to do that? Instead of a simple brush, let me go to the selector, and as you see, we have two of this. Why? This is a selector, this is a preview, this is the actually loaded brush here. So this area is actually like a palette, so it will load up and hold your recently used tools. It's quite handy, but if you have too many tools selected, that might be a little bit of a struggle to find your own one. But so actually, you just have to restart ZBrush and get rid of the previously loaded tools if you are disturbed by this. Okay, now just let me go in simple brush and pick something that's easily adjusted in 3D, a cube for example. Now what happens? Okay, before I do my stroke, it's not a continuous stroke anymore because it is a 3D model. So I can place my cursor, I'm tapping or left mouse button, I'm using a pen now, so I can drag it out. But as you see, it really follows the underlying structure of the model. So if I have a stroke and I have a slanted edge around here, and I'm starting my cube here, the cube will be perpendicular to the original surface it was created upon. Okay, material, I can change it. So why not? We need a different type of cube. We want to mix it with a different type of color, so that's also working nicely. Normal RGB material is not really a fancy thing for cubes, but it's much better for rounded objects. So what happens if I want to add a rounded object? Uh, Maybe it's a spiral. Okay, so let me create a spiral. Wow, nice. Okay. So it is quite pointless if you cannot adjust your 3D models, at least some way. Of course, you can load in complex models, it could be figures, so you can combine those into one illustration, but at least you have to have kind of an option to move around these objects. So if you are leaving draw mode and switching to move mode, W is for switching, then you can manipulate your latest model. So you can, if you select a corner point, you can just adjust a couple things, rotate around for example, and move and pulling it back. So it's quite a kind of an intuitive way to use it. This one's not the best gizmo, but the options are quite self-explanatory. Yes, you can switch to scale mode, and if you are satisfied with the changes that you made, you can go back to draw mode, hitting Q, draw mode, and as you see, we have some anchor text. So if you're moving your cursor over any type of button, the main title will be presented. But if you're holding down Control and moving over any button, you will get a kind of a cue about how to use your model. Okay, so now this is the most powerful feature of ZBrush that you can use quite some heavy content and a lot of different structures and combine them into one single model. But this particular area, this 2.5D area where you have kind of an embossed or kind of a relief work, it is not that popular these days for obvious reasons. So what happens if you want to switch and start working on your sculpting? First of all, you want to clear your canvas. Now if I don't want to clear my canvas and I want to save it, I have to go up here in the document and save it as a document. If you are pressing Ctrl S, that's a different type of stuff. It is a ZPR. It calls ZBrush project. Now what's the difference between the Ctrl save ZPR file and the document save as ZBR file? ZBrush documents are technically images, so you save this image layout. It has the 3D data, but that's dropped onto the canvas. You cannot pick it up and start working. You can add to your model, but you cannot really modify the existing stuff. Now if you are saving a project file, you can edit your 3D model there right now, because it's a 2.5D project and started as a 2.5D project. There's no point to save this one as a project file. So it could be saved as a document file, save as, just let me save it as a desktop. Okay, ZBrush document ZBR, save, and if I'm pressing Ctrl N, I can control new. That's actually a new document here. I can open. No, I don't want to save any changes. My document, and this is what I have. So I can drag out my new spirals, but I cannot really remove anything. So Ctrl Z is also working if you have a freshly loaded model. Ctrl Z is working only till you have the new recent changes applied. Okay, so going to edit mode will be a little bit different. So when you're just turning your model into something, you want to move it, you can recognize, okay, now ZBrush is pretty much capable to rotate around things and edit things, but we have way more. So I'm going back to draw mode, pressing Ctrl N to clear my canvas, and instead of using the spiral, I will create a sphere 3D, drag it out. Oh, sorry. Ctrl N, changing the material to a basic material, changing the color to a simple white, and I will drag it this way out because I don't want to keep that material on my model, and I want to keep a neutral color as well. So that's it. Now, before you're doing actually anything else and start sculpting and moving around, you can instantly turn edit mode on. Now, if you miss this point and you start dragging again and again, it will create new and another one spheres. So Ctrl N, drag only one sphere, hit T, that's the edit mode, the save frame will appear, and now you are in edit mode, and now you can edit and later on sculpt your model. Okay, we will follow from this stage in the next lesson.